KFJ Online. Well, like we started last week, we're looking at some of the habits that the new believers had in the early church. We talked about how they were meeting together and praying together and worshiping together and serving one another. Well, this week I wanted to see if you still have, I brought my rock with me, if you're able to get your rock. Did you paint yours? I decided I really liked mine. I didn't paint him. And if you left it in a place that you could stop and remember to pray and to practice your relationship with God. Well, this week, I was thinking about this rock and about the things the church was doing to grow, and it made me think of a parable or a story that Jesus told. So to retell it, why don't you come with me? We're going to go outside. Okay, so Jesus told a parable. The people came and he said, okay, people, what do you think about this? There's a farmer. And the farmer is out and he's scattering seed. Now in those days, the farmer would go and throw the seed out as he walked. And he said the farmer's out scattering seed. And some of the seed fell on a path. And I thought of a path, kind of like our sidewalk right here. All right? What do you think would happen if I threw some seed on this path? Is it going to grow? No, it's probably not going to grow, is it? Yeah, Jesus said it's just going to sit there. It's going to roast in the sun, and the birds are going to come and eat it. Then Jesus said, well, some of the seed fell among gravel, and it sprouted up pretty quickly, but because it didn't have very good roots, when the sun came up high, it withered and died. Kind of like these plants here. They look like they've kind of withered because they don't have much root. Nothing very deep to give them water and strength to outlast the sun. Then Jesus said, some of the seed fell amongst weeds, maybe like these dandelions here. And they tried to grow, but the weeds grew stronger and they choked this good seed out and it died. And Jesus said still other seed fell on good ground and produced a harvest beyond the farmer's wildest dreams. Made me think of these beautiful zinnias by our church. What a beautiful harvest. So what does this story about that Jesus told us about mean? Well, Jesus himself told the disciples. He said, study this story about the farmer planting seed. When anyone hears the good news about the kingdom and doesn't take it in, it just remains up on the surface. So the evil one comes along and plucks it right out of the person's heart. That's like the seed that got scattered along the path, or our sidewalk in our case. The seed that was in the gravel is like a person who hears and instantly responds with enthusiasm, but there's no soil or character. So when the emotion wears off and things get hard and difficulty arises, the person falls away. There's nothing to show for it. The seed cast in the weed is the person who hears the good kingdom news, but the weeds of worry and disillusion and worrying about getting more and more and strangle that good news out, and nothing comes of it. But the seed cast on the good earth is like the person who hears the good news and takes it in and then produces a harvest beyond their wildest dreams. Well, that was a very interesting story, and the different types of soil and how Jesus explained, they describe different types of lives or times in people's lives. Of course, we all hope that we can be good soil. What are some of the ways that we can help ourselves to be good soil and not rocky soil or thorny soil or a hard soil like the path? Well, for good soil, if you ask a gardener or a farmer, it needs to have some things happen in it. It needs to be worked and fertilized and be ready to receive seed. The early church and the things that they did meeting together, by praying together and fellowshipping together and worshiping together, those were things that helped them to prepare their hearts and their lives to be good soil, to have a good harvest of the things that God wants in us, of serving others, to loving one another, and to loving Him. So I think that's one thing that we can do as followers of Jesus, is find ways to fellowship and be with other followers of Jesus. Now, I know right now that's not the easiest thing in these times that we have, where we have to be careful because of COVID-19 and things that are going on. In fact, that's why I'm talking to you on KFJ Online instead of in person at church. But there are many different ways that we can fellowship together. You could FaceTime somebody or call them up on the phone, or you could walk in the park together with someone else. There are important ways that we can build fellowship, and when we do, when we spend time with other believers, we get to practice our loving and our sharing and our caring. It's very hard to love, share, and care when you're all by yourself, isn't it? But the believers, the early believers, they cared for one another. When they knew someone had a need, they worked together to take care of it. So that's why we meet together, why we spend time with one another, because then our soil is well prepared, kind of from like in the parable, and we can take care of each other. We can grow and have good harvests that Jesus wants in us. So make sure that you find ways to fellowship with other believers. That's a way you can grow. So this week, as you walk past and you touch your rock, not only think about prayer and your relationship with God, but also ask God, how can I fellowship with other believers? How can I live and practice these things that you're growing in my heart? Well, that's all for this week. Now, remember, in a couple weeks, we're actually going to get to meet together at Worship in the Park on the 27th of September. So looking forward to that. But I'll see you next week on KFJ Online. All right? Take care. Bye-bye.